We back, y'all. Like Queen's King. Look, I don't know what the heck that was about. I do not know what the heck that was about. Sometimes Streamlabs be acting up. Maybe I should have shut it down. I did a microphone check just to make sure that we were clear for that. But I should have shut it down and started it back up. So we're going to try this again. Streamlabs be having some issues sometime, man. I swear they do. But hopefully we'll be all right this time. Hopefully we will be all right this time. We're going to go ahead and just start the video from the jump. Since we're going to make this like it's fresh again, I gotta do it. What up, AOK Mafia? It's your boy Artofkickz, and just like that, we back with another one. I ain't doing that again. This better work this time. We're gonna start the video from fresh, since y'all said it was acting up and it started lagging. Look, y'all let me know if it's working. Y'all let me know. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Let's go.
There are a few graphic and distressing details that are revealed at the end of this story. Viewer discretion is advised. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please replace the like button's eye drops with Egyptian fox urine. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
So we good now, y'all. We good? All right, cool. I'm glad to hear it. Let's get it, baby. Dang, we done lost like 400 people though, dang.
On the morning of February 2nd, 2012, a young man pulled off a 4-lane highway in Anchorage, Alaska, into a large, snowy parking lot. He passed by dozens of parked cars until he arrived in front of this small shack that was brightly teal-colored. It was a popular coffee shop called the Common Grounds, and this young man worked as a barista there. After he parked his car, he walked up to the white door employee entrance to this little building, and he got his key out and he went to unlock the door, but when he turned the key, he saw the door was already unlocked. He knew the girl who had worked the previous night and would have been responsible for locking the shop up. She was 18-year-old Samantha Koenig, and although she had only been on the job for about a month, she seemed very responsible and had never had any issues closing up before. The young man shrugged it off though. He figured people make mistakes, and he went inside. Right away, he noticed that a couple of things just seemed out of place. It was like Samantha must have just left in the middle of her shift without even attempting to clean up. There were napkins on the ground, there were towels out, there were cups still out. And so as this young man is walking over to the cash register to unlock it, he's running through scenarios in his head about how Samantha could have been so sloppy. And then he reached down with his register key, and just like the door, the cash register was already unlocked. When he pulled the tray out, all the money was gone. And that's when he knew they had been robbed. And so he called his boss. The night before, Samantha had asked her boyfriend, Dwayne, to pick her up after her shift at the Common Grounds. Dwayne arrived in front of the kiosk at about 8:30 p.m., which was 30 minutes after her shift should have been over. Dwayne had gotten held up at his job, which is why he was late. And so when he gets there, Dwayne looks around the parking lot, and he doesn't see Samantha anywhere. He sees the coffee shop itself is totally dark and looks like it's been closed up for the night. And so Dwayne gets out of his truck into the freezing cold night air, and he walked up to the window of this coffee shop, and he pressed his face up to the glass to look inside, but there was nobody in there. Dwayne automatically went back to the fight he had gotten into with Samantha earlier in the night via text message. She had accused him of cheating on her. He had been kind of nonchalant, like he didn't care about it, and what ensued was a really ugly fight.
Wait a minute. So him and his girlfriend was working at the same coffee shop together? Am I hearing that right?
And so as Dwayne is walking back to his truck, he's thinking to himself, maybe Samantha just didn't want to see him because of the fight. And so at the end of her shift, she got a ride home from her father or maybe from a friend, and that's why she's not here. And so Dwayne gets back inside of his truck and he sends a text message to Samantha asking if she's okay, if she's gotten home. But after several minutes of no response from her, Dwayne, even though they were fighting, he still cares an awful lot about his girlfriend. Yeah. He decides, I gotta go by her house and make sure she's there and that she's okay. And so a couple minutes later, he gets to her house, he goes up to the door, and her single father, James, answers the door. Dwayne explains that he didn't see Samantha after her shift and just wanted to make sure she was here, but James says, she's not here. I have no idea where she is. I haven't spoken to her. And so the two men go into James's kitchen, they sit down, and they start texting and calling Samantha to try to figure out where she is. And after a couple of minutes, Dwayne's phone lights up, and it's a text message from Samantha. And the message clearly indicates that she's still very upset with Dwayne, but she's saying that she needs some time to think and that she's going to be with some friends for a couple of days, and would he, Dwayne, let her father know where she was. And so Dwayne...
Interesting. Okay, so I got some theories right now. And I got to talk about them before we proceed with this. But Miss Pisces Thang, I saw you. Thank you for the dono. Jump back in, gave us another $5. I appreciate you, baby girl. American Redneck, we in here, baby. Thank you for the $20 dono, the largest one of the night so far. But real quick, so the boyfriend's assumption was that the girlfriend was still upset with him, which is why it's a possibility that she just left the coffee shop the way it was, dipped up out of there, and potentially got a ride home. That was his assumption. Later on, he got a text message from her that kind of solidified what he thought had happened. But my thought is, what if maybe she was kidnapped or something? And maybe the person that kidnapped her actually, told her to tell her boyfriend that. Because maybe he was blowing up her phone or texting her or calling her, trying to get a hold to her, find out what's going on with her. Maybe the kidnapper was like, hey, the story you just told me about your boyfriend and you getting into a big fight, tell him that you're still mad at him and that you're okay.
And shows James the text message, and Samantha's father looks at it and he's thinking to himself, this is very uncharacteristic of Samantha. He had raised Samantha since she was 2 years old, and they were very close. They shared everything with each other. It didn't make any sense that she wouldn't contact him directly to say that she was going to be out with friends for a couple of days. And it didn't make sense that she would ignore all of his phone calls and text messages when clearly he was worried about her. The two men stayed up super late, calling and texting, hoping to get more information from Samantha.
You see what I'm talking about?
But she never responded. She never texted back. And so the following morning, when neither man had gotten any more messages from Samantha, James went to the Anchorage Police Department and filed a missing person report for his only daughter. After receiving this missing person report, an officer with the Anchorage Police Department called the owner of the Common Grounds coffee shop to ask about Samantha. And the owner actually said they just got a call from their barista that was working at the kiosk that morning, and they had informed them that apparently there had been a robbery and no one can get in touch with Samantha. No one knows where she is. The owner told the police officer that as soon as she got her hands on the security footage from the night before, she would send it over to the police department. While the police waited for this footage, some officers began calling Samantha's friends and other family members to see if they knew where she was, but no one had heard from her, no one knew where she was, no one had any information. Some other police officers headed over to the Common Grounds coffee kiosk to get a look at it for themselves. And when they got there was no sign of a struggle outside or inside the kiosk, and inside, underneath the counter, was a panic button that had not been pressed. And so even though Samantha's father thought there was something odd about her final text message, the police began operating under the theory that Samantha had robbed the kiosk and then left of her own accord. But
Wait a minute. So at this point, they haven't received the video footage or the surveillance footage from the from the coffee shop? That's strange. That is very, very strange. A Pisces thing that came in here and dropped in this accumulation of what would be the largest donator of the night so far. Thank you, sweetheart. We appreciate you. I hope you had a good day, brother. I'm wearing my high Karen cap and my Karen pullover. Didn't you just receive that cap in the mail today, boy? Nice. I see we got our Karen merch on today, big baby. But yo, this is piecing together. This is going to be crazy at the end.
What confounded police was how Samantha actually physically got away from the coffee shop. She didn't have a car that night, and she couldn't have just walked away because the weather was way too miserable and cold outside, and Anchorage is just not really a walkable city. And so if Samantha was telling
Alaska, right? Yeah.
the truth, that she was just taking a couple of days to be by herself with some friends at their place, then why didn't any of her friends know where she was?
There we go. Oh my goodness. Now at this point, this is interesting because we just got that piece of information. the dad had already went to the police station to file a missing persons report. But it does make sense that maybe they would have checked in with her friends to see if they knew where she was. None of them did.
Question was answered later that day when the owner of the coffee shop made the security footage available. The footage, which has no audio, picks up around 8 p.m. on February 1st, 2012, which was the night Samantha went missing. It shows Samantha inside of the kiosk. She's working alone, she's cheerful, and she's busy. And then at some point, someone that we can't see, they're outside of the camera's range, comes up to the window and orders a drink. Samantha clearly turns to them, acknowledges their drink order, and turns and begins making this drink. And then after she's done making it, she turns to give it to this person, and immediately Samantha steps back and puts her arms up. And then seconds later, she reaches over and turns off the lights inside of the kiosk, and then she gets down on her knees with her back to the window. She stays in that position, not talking, not moving, for about a minute before she slowly stands up and walks down the kiosk towards the cash register. She opens it up, she scoops some money out of it, then she walks back to the window and appears to hand it to a shadowy figure on the other side of the window, and then Samantha turns, kneels again with her back to the window. 2 more minutes go by before this person outside the window leans their entire upper body inside of the coffee shop. They reach down and they appear to tie Samantha's hands. Now, because it was dark inside of the kiosk, the footage winds up being extremely grainy, and there's no way to identify who this figure is. Although it's fairly obvious that it's a male. He's wearing a big sweatshirt and he's got a hat pulled down low over his face. After this...
Okay. This, you see, I told you y'all she was probably kidnapped. This has me thinking. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Mystery man is done tying Samantha's hands. He leaps through the window and then shuts the window behind him. And then he stands Samantha up. He puts a gun into her back. Then he marches her out the employee door and then out across the lot, all the way to a white pickup truck where he puts her inside and they drive off.
I remember now. I remember what I was thinking. Sorry. I'm slow, y'all. I'm slow. So I'm over here thinking that whoever this person is that kidnapped this woman, they knew she was going to be there by herself. And that happens. That happens a lot of times where you might come across a shop or whatever, and you be like, oh, wait, this person is in here all by themselves. And you might even have a conversation with them, and they'll tell you, yeah, they got me here. I'm the only one here. They got me closing tonight. You know, we hardly get anybody coming in here, so I think I should be all right. Or they might just have the drive-thru open. Doesn't mean something can't happen to you. Man, that is, wow.
Over the next couple of days, the police and also the FBI, who had been called in to be a part of this investigation, they just kept hitting dead end after dead end because there was no evidence. All they had was this surveillance footage that was too grainy to tell who this guy was that took Samantha. Meanwhile, Samantha's father, James, had rallied the support of nearly all 300,000 people that lived in Anchorage to go out and look for his daughter. His efforts were so profound, it had attracted major news outlets across the country, and suddenly his daughter's story had grabbed national headlines everywhere.
Woo, that's good. That is good. What up, King Cole? Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for the dono. I'm glad I can keep you motivated. A Pisces thing, keep on dropping them donos, baby. At work, bored. Love your content. Thank you, sir. What up, Brandy? I see you up in here, baby. Shout out to you. Thank you for the dono. Yeah, we chilling tonight.
This led to strangers donating thousands of dollars to fund a reward for anybody that had information about Samantha's whereabouts. But despite this reward growing in size every single day and the national news media becoming increasingly more interested in this case, no one came forward with useful information that led to developments in this case. And Samantha never got in touch with Dwayne or her father. Then on February 24th, so 3 weeks after Samantha's gone missing and no one's heard from her, Dwayne got a text message from Samantha's phone. And it was directing him to a particular sign inside of a nearby public park. And so Dwayne and James read this text, they shared it with the police department, and then they raced to this park and actually beat the police there by about 15 minutes. And so Dwayne and James, they walked through the gates, and they start walking down this main trail, and they stop in front of this sign. It was actually a bulletin board, and tacked on the bulletin board was a Ziploc bag, inside of which was a typed ransom note, and on the ransom note, literally Xeroxed onto it, was a black and white photo of Samantha. And in this photo, Samantha looks kind of dazed, like she's got a blank expression, and she's not really looking at the camera, she's looking just to the side of the camera. And then in this picture, a man is holding a copy of the Anchorage Daily News newspaper that's dated February 13th, 2012. This was a proof of life photo where Samantha's captor was holding up that newspaper to indicate that Samantha was alive as of February 13th. And so to everybody involved in this case, including Samantha's father, even though this is still not a good situation at all, it was kind of a relief to know that at least as of last week, Samantha was alive.
All right, so now, wow. 3 weeks had gone by. Nobody knew or had any information on Samantha's whereabouts. This makes me think, did the person that took her, did they not know what they wanted to do with her? Is that the reason why it took them so long to, figure out, let's text them and send them a place to meet and yada, 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 and have a photo of her, this, that, and the fourth, a picture of the most recent newspaper to let folks know that she's still alive? Like, were they trying to figure out what they were going to do with her? Did they have a different plan for her? And then maybe, I'm saying they as if it's more than one person operating the little thing they got going on, but I'm thinking it's a possibility that maybe they wanted to off her, and then they thought, maybe we can get some money from this. Now that this have become a nationwide thing, and there's thousands of people donating money, there's so much money raised, maybe we can get that money now. So let's get that money.
For the demands of this ransom note, James was told to deposit $30,000 into his daughter's account immediately, and if he did that, she would be released 6 months later. As advised by the FBI, James deposited a portion of the ransom money into his daughter's account, and then the FBI just waited and watched.
See? You see what I'm talking about?
Because they knew if anyone tried to withdraw money from that account, they could track where the card was. A few days later, 3 separate withdrawals were made within Anchorage, but each time the FBI got a notification about one of these withdrawals, they would rush to the scene, and whoever it was that had tried to make this withdrawal was long gone. When they pulled the security footage from these 3 different ATMs, the person that was making these withdrawals was a man wearing a ski mask and big sunglasses, so they had no way to identify him. After these withdrawals, the account went silent for over a week, and in that time, there was no word from Samantha. Then, on March 7th, more withdrawals were made, but they were in Arizona, and then New Mexico, and then in Texas.
Wow.
Again, authorities would rush to these ATMs, but they would get there right after the masked man with sunglasses had just left. But there was...
All right, so how much are these withdrawals for? How much are these withdrawals for? Because I think depending on the type of account that you have, you can only withdraw like $400. Maybe this was before they put that type of limit on it for ATM withdrawal.
There's a break this time. In one of these surveillance videos from one of the Texas ATMs, they spotted the car this guy was getting into before he left. And it was a small sedan, it was a white Ford Focus, and they saw him leave going east on a Texas highway. And so authorities in Texas were told to look out for this particular car in this part of Texas. And sure enough, on March 13th, a Texas patrolman spotted the car sitting in a hotel parking lot. He waited nearby until a man in his 30s walked out of one of the hotel rooms, walked down, and got inside the car, and then this patrolman just kind of followed him and looked for any reason to pull him over.
I don't know how I feel about the cop just finding this car at a hotel. It's a freaking what? A Ford Focus, Ford Fusion, white. You know how many people drive that car? Unless they had the tags of that car and it matched up, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But okay, so they follow this man, and they're looking, or the cop is looking for a reason to pull him over. Okay.
And as he had his radar gun on this guy, he noticed he was going 2 miles per hour above the speed limit, and so he pulled him over. The patrolman got out. He walked up to the driver's side window. The window was already down. The man was very calm. The patrolman asked him for his license, and the guy handed him an Alaskan license. His name was Artofkickz. He was 34 years old, and he lived in Anchorage.
I ain't gonna lie, he looked like he'll do it. I'm sorry. He lives in Anchorage, Alaska as well, where this girl was abducted or kidnapped. Heather, yes, ma'am, we in here, baby. We watching this. Andrew, what's going on? Official. Finally got that gray cap and 2 tank tops. Oh yeah. Shout out to Travis. I saw your order came through. Appreciate you. Miss Pisces, keep doing the thing. She just keep on dropping them donations. I appreciate you, lady. We in here, baby. My phone's over here. I don't know if y'all... We got some stuff coming in over here as well. I'm going to shout you guys out towards the end. What up, V? Oh my God, finally made it live. Yeah, you in here, baby girl. We in this thing.
The patrolman knew this was the guy. He called in backup, and before long, they were searching Keyes' car, and in the trunk, they found a ski mask along with other clothes that matched the description of the guy who was making withdrawals from these different ATMs. They also found a gun, as well as Samantha's cell phone and debit card. After Keyes was arrested and brought into custody, he denied having any involvement with Samantha's disappearance.
This man is both smart and stupid at the same time. He did a pretty good job of keeping them off of his trail. He did a pretty good job. It was just unfortunate, and he got real unlucky that this cop just spotted his car in the freaking hotel and pulled him over for going 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. Who does that? 2 miles an hour? Come on now. You go pull me over for going 2 miles an hour under the speed limit too? Come on now. Come on now. But anyway, who drives exactly at the speed limit? Not me. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you that. I might go slower, but I'll tell you that. Anyway, this man gonna sit here and deny all the evidence that's right there. Bro, you had a phone and everything. This dude is a full cap and a half. We got the UK in here. What up, Andrew?
But after being presented with the overwhelming evidence that suggested otherwise, he caved and said yes, he would tell them the full story of what happened to Samantha, but they had to get him an Americano coffee, a peanut butter Snickers, and a cigar.
This man, yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened. But I need Americano coffee. I need a Snickers. What else he needed? He petty.
To get him an Americano coffee, a peanut butter Snickers, and a cigar.
A peanut butter Snickers. They got those? Where they got those? Wait, what year is this? They had peanut butter Snickers? How come I never heard about them? Look, art is bad enough I got 2 apple pies when I got this. I shouldn't have did that. I'm a bad boy. I'm a real bad boy. And now I'm paying the price because my stomach hurt right now. But I swear, when I see a peanut butter Snickers, I'm getting it. I got to try it. I got to. What was the other thing he got again? The coffee, the Snickers, and something else. I don't care.
Once he had said items, he began to speak.
Cigar. Did they let this man smoke a cigar in here? That's crazy.
And what he said was so disturbing and so graphic, the FBI still has not released the full transcript of his confession.
Are you serious? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
Here is the version of events based on what was made public. On February 1st, 2012, Keyes decided he was going to rob the Common Grounds coffee kiosk.
Okay.
He walked up to the window expecting there to be some teenager working inside, and he was right. It was Samantha. He asked her for an Americano, and while she turned to make his drink, suddenly his plan changed. Not only was he going to steal money from inside of this coffee shop, he decided he was going to steal Samantha from this coffee shop. When she turned back with his drink and handed it to him, he discreetly pulled his gun out and aimed it at her and told her this was a robbery.
Dude, when I tell you guys, we have big brains over here on this channel. This beginning part of the story leads up into what I said earlier, that this man didn't have initial plan for what he was going to do with this woman. Remember how I said, why did it take him 3 weeks to, put them on a trail as to what's going on with her to show that she's still alive with the newspaper on February the 13th? He didn't plan that. He didn't plan a ransom. This man didn't even plan to kidnap this woman. He was just going to rob the place. See? Big brains. Big brains. We were right. That's right. And we got 1,100 people in here. Big baby.
From this coffee shop. When she turned back with his drink and handed it to him, he discreetly pulled his gun out and aimed it at her and told her this was a robbery. That's when she backed up and put her hands up, and then she turned around, he tied her hands, he jumped back inside, and then he said after he shut the window, he jammed napkins inside of her mouth so she couldn't make any sound, and then he marched her out the door, outside, into his car, and they took off. Once they were in the vehicle, he pulled the napkins out of her mouth, and he told her if she tried to escape or if she tried to flag anybody down, that he would just kill her. And so he said she was very obedient, she was obviously very scared, but she was trying to do her best to stay composed. At some point...
I'm kind of hot. I think this coffee got my heart racing or something. It's a little hot in here. I almost want to go turn the AC on or something. But anyway, it's unfortunate that, growing up, our parents might tell us, hey, if you get in any sort of situation like this, do your best to stay calm and to do what they ask of you. And that's exactly what this young lady here did. She was staying calm and she was doing what he asked. It makes it easier. It makes it to where you're maybe less combative. If you're less combative, then, they might have some lenience on you and they might not hurt you. But it sounds like the story's about to take a turn for the worse.
But Keys reached over and took her phone and sent that text message to her boyfriend informing him that she was going to be spending a couple of days with friends and that he should tell her father. And then Keys told Samantha he was going to be holding her hostage and trying to extract some ransom money. Samantha told Keys that her family was very poor and that he wouldn't get much money out of them. To which Keys said, don't worry about it. I know they'll raise money and they'll come up with it somehow. Then they drove around Anchorage.
Okay, so he did come up with a plan quite quickly after he got her. Okay.
For several hours, periodically stopping so Samantha could get out and relieve herself, other times so Keys could smoke a cigar. Then around midnight, Keys made his way back to his house and he pulled into the driveway and he turned to Samantha and he had her go in the back seat and lie down. Then he put some tarps over her and he told her if she tried to escape, he would kill her. And then Keys got out and he walked inside of his house where his 10-year-old daughter and his girlfriend were fast asleep.
This man threw his life away for what? He didn't even have a solid plan. He has a 10-year-old daughter and a girlfriend that was in the house sound asleep. So he left this girl out here in this truck in the freezing cold while he tried to gather his thoughts together and figure out exactly what the heck he was doing. That's crazy.
And in just a few hours, Keys and his daughter...
Oh, what the freak? This is the house. This is the actual house. Wow. Wow. Paper Craft, just wanted to say how much we appreciate you. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Also, you're sexy as hell. Don't ever think otherwise. Thank you, baby. You know I know that. You know I know that. You know I know that. Look, don't gas me. Don't gas me. Jess, what's going on with you? Ben. Hey, man, we trying out here, cuz. We trying out here, King. We kings out here, baby.
Were scheduled to go to New Orleans for a 2-week-long luxury cruise. Keys left his house and went back to his car. He put a blindfold on Samantha and then led her down the driveway to his shed. Once inside, he sat her down on an upturned bucket in the back of the shed, and then he put a rope around her neck and he anchored each end of the rope to the wall so she was pinned to the wall. Then Keys turned his radio all the way up to make sure it masked any noise she might make, even though he reminded her repeatedly that if she made any noise, he would just kill her, and by and large, she was very obedient. And then he gave her a couple of cigarettes to smoke and told her it was going to be just fine, to just chill out, that he was going to get the ransom money from their family, and then as soon as that was done, he would let her go. He turned on some space heaters to keep the space warm, and then he left and locked the door. He walked back into his house and double-checked that his daughter and his girlfriend were still asleep. They were. Afterwards...
Okay, so he didn't leave her out there. Okay. Man, I feel like this is going to be crazy at the end.
He started drinking some wine and relaxing, and then after a little while, he got a cup of water and he went back out to the shed. He went inside and he gave the water to Samantha, and he said Samantha was very composed. She was obviously frightened, but she asked him, "Did you speak to my father? Did you figure out the ransom situation?" And Keyes told her that, "Yes, I talked to your father. Everything's working out fine. He's going to raise the money. We're going to get you out of here. Everything's going exactly to plan."
Okay, so that's a lie. That's a whole cap, or cap and a half. No, that's a whole cap. That was a whole cap. He didn't talk to her. He didn't talk to her father. We know that. We know that for a fact. We heard far enough back to know that for a fact. Because it sounds like this is too early in the story. The whole ransom thing, as far as we know, didn't come up until 3 weeks later, after this man done took a picture of her with this newspaper and her looking slightly off past the camera. She was probably looking at him as he was taking a picture. So he's probably just telling her that just to keep her calm, you know? Keep her calm so she won't be difficult, which makes sense.
After that, he walked up to Samantha and he unscrewed the 2 anchors that were holding that rope up against her throat, and then he cut the zip ties on her wrist, allowing her to relax and sit forward and just kind of be at ease for a second. And it was very obvious that Samantha was relieved. Her nightmare was about to be over. But then seconds later, Keyes grabbed her really aggressively and tied her up all over again, this time much more thoroughly and much more tightly. It had been a cruel trick. When he cut her handcuffs and undid her necktie, he just wanted to see what she would do if she thought she was being let go. When in reality, he was never going to let her go. There was no ransom. He had not spoken to her father.
Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Welcome to the Big Brain channel. I might have to change the name. This ain't Artofkickz no more. This is Big Brains. But nah, seriously. He said what I said. There was no ransom at that time. He hadn't spoken to her father. It's funny because I thought he told her that. He did tell her that initially to keep her calm. But at the same time, he let her go or release her restraints to see what she would do. Horrible trick. Horrible trick. But at the same time, he's like, okay, I see. She's going to stay combative, so I'm in control here. Wow.
It was all a big lie. Keyes told investigators that as he was tying her up for that second time, he looked at her face, and she had this look of total resignation. He said she knew what was about to happen to her. After Keyes tied her up, he left the shed and locked it behind him. He went inside to check one more time to make sure his 10-year-old daughter and his girlfriend were still asleep. When they were, he went back to the shed, he opened it up, he went inside, and this time when he stepped inside, it smelled like urine and sweat, and he looked down at Samantha and she was terrified. He walked up to her and he began to assault her, and then after he was done, he was standing over her getting his clothes back on, and Samantha very stoically looks up at him and says, "Are you going to kill me?"
Ew. Ew. Wait a minute. Ew. I just thought about something. For one, he sat there and had his way with this girl. Poor thing. Poor thing. He had his way with her. But after the fact that she was sitting there sweating and peeing on herself. Nasty. What's wrong with you, bro? You, ew. I would have been throwing up. Like, no. I would have threw up if I just walked in there and just, like, I smell piss everywhere. Like, what's going on? You know? Evil man.
And he says, "Yes, I am." As he put on his leather gloves, she tried to talk him out of it.
What?
He was standing over her getting his clothes back on, and Samantha very stoically looks up at him and says, "Are you going to kill me?" And he says, "Yes, I am." As he put on his leather gloves, she tried to talk him out of it, but he said there was no other way. Keyes would tell investigators that he was very impressed with Samantha's bravery. Shortly before 4 a.m., Keyes drove a knife into Samantha's back before choking her until she stopped moving. He told investigators that she never made a sound. After she was dead, Keyes left the shed and locked it behind him. He went into his house, he took a shower. Afterwards, he woke up his daughter and told her to start getting ready because they were leaving soon for the airport.
Damn. She never made a sound. Remember back when I was saying, and there was a thought that came across my mind when I said it, but I forgot to implement that thought into my conversation. Remember back when I said, you know, they tell you or teach you to stay calm, to try not to be combative, to make it easier for them, not to scream, not to be too irate because they might want to harm you sooner. I also suggest, and they also suggest, if you find a gap where you can potentially relieve yourself from this situation, get up out of there, look forward, take it. Dang, poor baby. I hate this.
While his daughter was getting ready, Keyes went back out to the shed. He went inside. He rolled Samantha's body up in a tarp and pushed her towards the back. He unplugged the space heaters, turned off the lights, turned off the music, and then double locked the shed and went back inside the house to make his daughter breakfast. At 5 a.m., a cab showed up at the house, and Keyes and his daughter hopped inside, and they made their way to the airport and then on to New Orleans, where they went on their 2-week-long vacation. After they got back,
this man killed a girl and the next day goes on a vacation with his 10-year-old daughter like nothing happened. Wow. If I was his child, knowing this story, because you know that child knows this story, that 2-week-long trip vacation would be a trip that I would never forget. I would remember every single aspect of that trip. Because a traumatic situation occurred before and after that trip. Because think about it. Let's say you've been on trips as a kid with your family. You might not be able to recall in full detail how that trip was. But because of this, I promise you, that child can recall everything that happened on that trip. Because that child grew up thinking, wait a minute, my dad killed someone before the trip that we went on, that 2-week-long trip when I was 10 years old. I would have never guessed. With every facial expression, with every interaction that I had with my dad on that trip, in his mind, he did this thing. And I never knew. That child can recall every moment of that trip, every second, every word. I'm telling you, I know it. This is insane.
Keyes went inside of his shed. He unrolled Samantha from her tarp, and by his account, she still looked fairly lively. And so he dressed her in some new clothes. He put lots of makeup on her face. He braided her hair, and then he stitched her eyelids open so it gave the impression she was alive and alert. And then he held up a copy of the Anchorage Daily News next to her, and then took several photos, creating that proof of life photo for the ransom note. If you want to see this photo, you can Google it, but that's up to you.
Oh, I don't know if I want to Google that. I kind of do. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. The girl was already dead when he took that picture of her 3 weeks later asking for ransom. Going to the ATM, collecting money from different locations across different states. And she was already dead. She was already gone. Wow. So he didn't waste any time from the day he got her. Wow. I wonder if he has any history. He couldn't have. What made him do this?
After he took these pictures, he chopped her body up into pieces and then disposed of her in a nearby frozen lake. It would turn out Samantha was not Israel Keyes' first victim. He was, in fact, a serial killer who specifically preyed on completely random people because he enjoyed watching them die. Oh.
That just answered my question that I just asked. Was this his first time? You would have thought that it was. He had a whole wife and kids. What? And the fact that he confessed and told this story. He's done it multiple times before. This man is sick. He is sick. This makes me also think like he probably enjoys the fact that people know his face and what he did. Which is why it was so easy for him to just tell the story to the cops. As long as he got what he wanted, which was a cigar, a peanut butter Snickers, and a specific coffee. He's like, huh, I could tell you the story. Are you ready? Wow. We got 1,500 people in here. Welcome, everybody. Got a new channel member. What up, Patty Cakes? You in here, baby. King Cole, trying to get this beard game. Hey, man, hey, look, mine is struggling right now. I need to comb it or something.
Over the years, he had hid what he called kill kits all over the United States, which were these caches filled with weapons and other tools designed to capture and kill people. This way, no matter where he was in the country, when he had an urge to go kill someone, he would just go to his nearest kill kit, dig it up, and then go target a random stranger.
I was this close. Just now, I was this close to hitting the end live stream button and walking away from this computer. What level of sick is that? This man got kill kits stationed throughout the country. So when he's in a different state, he got the urge to want to off somebody, he go dig up this kit. Are you serious? What type of mind thinks of something like that? Put him under the jail. Put him under the jail. I can't believe there's people in this world like that. And the sad thing is, I heard that at any given time, there's 20 to 30 serial killers in this country. At any given time. Meaning right now, there's 20 to 30 of them out there. I hate it. What up, Leslie? We in here. Thank you for the don't know. Put him under the jail.
And he didn't care if you were young, old, big, small, male, female, alone, or in a group. Everyone was a target of opportunity. Keyes told investigators that as soon as he saw Samantha inside of that coffee kiosk, instantly he knew he was going to kill her. Everything about the ransom, the robbery, all of it was just a lie to keep her in line, to give her some hope that she might get out of this alive.
Wow. He is that kind of sick. And what make it so bad, damn, I hate him. I can't remember the last time I said I hate somebody. I don't usually have hate in my heart for anybody, but I hate him. he found who would have been his perfect target. Because she didn't give him any trouble at all. She didn't even make a sound when he stuck that knife in her back. She made it so easy for him. He knew that, took advantage of it, and was like, oh, this is just perfect. This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. Wow.
When in reality, the second she walked outside of the doors of that kiosk, she was dead.
Yep.
He's admitted to killing Samantha, as well as an older couple up in Vermont, but he would take his own life in a jail cell in December of 2012 before he named any of his other victims. And so to this day, we have no idea how many people he killed. The best guess is 11 based on a drawing he made in his jail cell, but that's just a guess. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's video, let us know in the comments what it is.
Wait a minute. 11 people, maybe, potentially. I wish he had, before ending his life, I wish he had noted all the people that he, I don't even want to say the words, as well as gave law enforcement an idea of where they could be found. So these people, their families, can at least get some closure. We got almost 1,600 people in here, y'all. Wow. This is sad. This is sad. We are about to do the next video. Y'all, this next video, it's a long one. I got to get out of here. This is top 3 scariest internet booby traps. Booby traps on the internet? Interesting. Let's get it. Hold on. Give me a second. Let's go.
Today's video is a reminder that there are horrible people on the internet that will take advantage of you if you're not careful. And so who better to sponsor today's video than NordVPN? NordVPN masks your internet identity, allowing you to surf the internet anonymously, protecting you from things like cyberstalking, identity theft, and hacking. When I was in the SEAL teams, they made us use a VPN anytime we were traveling. And so I used NordVPN pretty much the whole time I was in the military. And then when I got out again, I just kept using it because I became so accustomed to protecting my identity when I was online. And now is a great time.
Real quick, y'all. Shout out to everybody that's copying merchandise on the website right quick. I'm going to be shouting you guys out shortly. And I will be shouting out the other shout outs, the other Cash App donations. Thank you guys so much.
To protect yourself against some of the creeps that I'm going to talk about in today's video, click the link in my description. That is nordvpn.com/Ms.
And yes, you guys, I do, for everybody that's asking, I do got new merchandise on the way. Hopefully it'll be here next week and I'll be able to put it up on the website this or next Friday. Got some new stuff coming, some exciting stuff. Stuff you guys been wanting me to get, and stuff you guys been wanting me to restock as well. So be on the lookout for that. And then when I hit 1 million subs, we're going to bring something OG back. Something OG is coming back. Speak your truth, baby. It's coming.
In 2018, a 21-year-old brand new police officer named Derek was dumped by his longtime girlfriend. This breakup caught him by surprise because he had actually just recently moved to Colorado in order to be closer to his girlfriend. So naturally, he was devastated. After a few weeks of being so depressed and kind of just moping around and going through the motions in his life at this point, one of his very close friends suggested to him, like, hey man, look, why don't you just make a profile on Tinder, the online dating service, and just...
Don't do it. Don't do it. I just deleted my Tinder yesterday. I don't play with it. I don't play with it.
Put yourself out there again. You have no idea who's out there.
Nobody. Ain't nobody out there. Tinder don't even work for me. I can't even get a match on that thing. Not at all. I don't even get it. I swipe right on everything too. Yo, y'all just keep on dropping donos, man. King Cole, Miss Pisces. Thank you. I appreciate y'all so much. Wait, what happened?
Clearly, your ex-girlfriend was not the one. Derek had met his ex-girlfriend in a bar, and every other girlfriend he had ever had, he had met in person. So online dating was definitely not on his radar. Yeah. But he was so lonely and sad, he figured, you know what? I got nothing to lose. And so he made himself a Tinder profile. Derek quickly matched with a woman on Tinder named Leah that he said...
quickly? Look, I've been on Tinder 10 years. I ain't never got a match. At least not one that I wanted. I'm for real.
Was way out of his league, but he wasn't complaining. They chatted for a couple of weeks and they got on great, and so they wanted to get together and actually meet each other in person. But Leah lived well over an hour away from Derek, so there wasn't a natural meeting place, and they're going back and forth about where they want to go. And finally, Leah just says, hey, why don't you just come to my town? There's this great park that I go running in all the time, and they have this awesome field that's on a slope, and you can lay on it and look up through the trees and you can see the stars. And so that would be a cool thing to do on our first date, go stargazing together. So the date night finally came, and Derek was really excited. He was nervous too, because even though they talked on the phone, this is the first time they're going to see each other. And so the plan was he was going to drive out to her town and actually pick her up from her work. She worked at a hair salon, and from there they would make their way over to this park. And so Derek pulls up to the hair salon right as Leah is coming outside, and she's all excited and she's waving to him. She runs over and she gets in the car and they hug and kiss on the cheek. And it's like they knew each other, but they didn't know each other because their entire relationship was online or via texting or a phone call. Mm-hmm. And so it's like they had history, but they didn't. But either way, Derek was really happy, and it seemed like Leah was too. From the hair salon, it was a pretty short drive to this access road that was going to bring them into this park. And when Leah told him to make this turn, it didn't look like a very well marked trail or even a marked park. It looked like this kind of random access road that Derek would not have associated with a big public park, but he doesn't know the area, and so he turns and he starts heading down this road. And the road went from cement to dirt pretty quickly, and this whole time he's thinking to himself, like, did I take a wrong turn? Does she know like where she's going? This does not feel like...
I was just about to ask. Is this road that he's going down, is this one that he did by mistake, or is this one that she's leading him down? Y'all gotta be careful, man. You gotta be careful out there. I wouldn't do something like this. I would not do. As soon as I say, oh wait, you want me to go down that road? It's not happening. You can get your ass out my car. No, you ain't about to get me. You is not about to get me. We meeting. Well, I say we meeting. You saw that restaurant with all them people? That's where we going at. And then after, look. You go your way, I go mine.
The way you drive into a big park, the way she was describing. Finally, they land back on cement, and they're actually on this road that's right up against this huge field. And so right away, Derek's stress is gone because now it's confirmed in his mind that, okay, that's a weird way to get into this park, but here's this huge, amazing field, and we're back on a real road, and everything's good again. Derek asked Leah, where should I park? Because they're on this really narrow road, and there didn't appear to be a parking lot. There also didn't appear to be anybody else on this field or on this road.
Yeah, that's sketchy. That's sketchy. That's sketchy. Nah, Fellas. You go on a little Tinder date and the girl try to get you to go somewhere where like this, ain't nobody around, don't do it. Ain't no telling who might show up. Ladies, vice versa, same thing. Don't do. You go out there with a guy you don't know. What? Don't be stupid. I mean, don't be stupid now. Not me. Psh, my brain too big for that mess. I ain't gonna do it. You can't get me. We gonna meet at a very public place with a whole bunch of strangers around us. You know what I'm saying?
It's this huge, open, beautiful space, but it did not look well populated or like it was well traveled. But she said, just go right up there. There's a small lot you can pull into. And so Derek starts going up this road, and he sees maybe 300 feet ahead of him are dim headlights of another car making their way down the road towards him. And now it was dark enough that he couldn't really make out what kind of vehicle it was.
And it's dark. What up, Monica? You see these fools, Monica? You hearing this mess? This fool done went out here and it's dark, cuz. Look, I thought it was daytime at least. You can't get me. Nope, not me. I don't play with y'all. I don't play with y'all. You know what's funny? I actually did meet a girl on Tinder recently. I was messaging her today off of Tinder on Instagram because we actually both deleted our Tinder. And she fine. She's super way out of my league. Psych, nobody's out of my league. I like them fine. And I'm trying to link up with her when I get back to town. Y'all know I'm going to Miami this weekend. And I'm trying to link up with her when I get back. We're going to see if that's going to work. And then I'm hanging out with a chick tonight too. I'm doing too much.
And so he didn't know if it was going to be some big truck or something like that. And so what he did is he just pulled over as far to the side of the road as he could to allow this vehicle to pass, even though there was a fair amount of distance they would need to cover before they were passing him. He figured just give them the right of the road. And so as they start moving forward, he can see that it's actually this big van, and they're moving pretty slowly, and he's just kind of waiting for them to pass, and he's not thinking anything of this. He's thinking that this is just another person at the park. And this van, instead of passing him, actually turns at the last second and almost goes bumper to bumper with Derek's car.
I'll be like, oh snap! Watch out, girl! I'm about to pull my gun out. I'm gonna point it at her first. What's going on? You know these folks? What's going on?
He doesn't crash into it, but he stops just in front of Derek's car. And so Derek is a cop. He's a brand new cop, and he's super aggressive. You know, he really believes in his training. And so as soon as this guy stopped...
Pew, pew! He's a cop. See, look, I'm telling you, I know he got that gun, boy. He pulled that thing out on him, cuz. He like, look, don't y'all mess with me out here. Y'all don't know me. I'm a trained police officer. You know what I'm talking about? Look at Pisces thing. She in here just showing all kinds of love today, girl. What's going on with you, baby? What's going on? You a sugar mom? No, I'm playing.
In front of him and blocked the path for him. Red flags are going up for Derek, and he knows something's wrong with this van. And instinctively, he says, Leah, stay here. He grabs his flashlight that he kept right in the center console, and he jumped out of the car and went right to the driver's side door.
I would have blamed Leah, bro. You over here talking about Leah, stay here. I would be like, Leah. I don't live here. You brought me out here. Whatever this is, I'm blaming you. You guilty to proven innocent. Girl, look, don't play with me.
Of this van to confront this guy. And when he got up to the driver's side door, it was this really big guy who looked pretty startled to see Derek come charging up to him with his flashlight. And Derek's like, what are you doing, man? What are you blocking me in for? And the guy's like, oh, hey, sorry, I'm the caretaker here of this whole property. And we've had an issue with poachers in the area. And I was concerned you guys were poachers. It doesn't look like you're poachers, though.
Okay, I would've. See, you can't, this is why you can't be out here doing this stuff, man. You can't be out here. Look, I know, right, Wilfred, these backgrounds be so on point with Mr. Ballin. They be moving and stuff. I don't know how he do it. I think he get a picture and good little editing software, be making the background move. But anyway, no. I would have ended up hurting somebody. I'm black. You don't play with no black man like this. I would have, look, this man, he could have just been, hey, what y'all doing? This, I look after this property out here. We done had some poachers out here. What y'all doing out here? Y'all supposed to be out here. He would have told me that after he got a bullet in the leg. Sorry. I'm sorry.
And Derek's like, no, we're not poachers. We're going stargazing. I'm on my first date here. And the caretaker's like, I am so sorry. Please get back in your car, go and enjoy your night. And at that, he backed up, did a 3-point turn, and drove right back up that road where he came from and disappeared down on the other side of the hill. Derek stood in front of his car for a couple of minutes, making sure this guy was gone. And then he turned around and he got back in the car and he kind of joked with Leah. And he's like, yeah, you thought we were poachers. I guess you look like a poacher to him, and that's why he stopped us. But when he looked over at Leah to react to his hilarious joke, she wasn't paying attention to him. She was just furiously typing away on her phone, which Derek did think was a little bit odd. You'd think that she'd be more interested.
At that moment, she got kicked out of my car. At that moment, she got kicked out of my car. Nope. Not me. Heck yeah, I think that's a setup, Jess. You think? Nah, this is a set all the way up. I thought it from the jump. That's why the dude would have still got a pew in his leg from me. He would have still got there talking about, hey, I'm just watching, I watch this land. We done had some poachers out here recently. That's not what he was supposed to say. That's why the girl was over there texting, you idiot. That's not, you were supposed to take him and strangle him. What, you got scared of a flashlight? I know he's a cop, but still. As soon as I looked over at her, and I'm over here trying to make a joke, and she's over here. I'm opening that door. I'm not gonna push her out. Ugh, I'm kicking her out. Nah, heck no. I'm gonna be scared. Pulling up out of there so quick, boy. No. I'm glad I deleted Tinder yesterday.
In this strange thing that just happened. Some weird guy just blocked us in, and I'm confronting him. You'd think she'd be interested in that on some level. She might want to know what I said to the guy and what he said to me, but she didn't seem to care. She was just really invested in whoever she was typing on her phone. And so Derek thinks, whatever, and just throws the car back and drive and continues up the trail the way they were going before they were stopped. So Derek continues down the road just a little ways until he sees a little dirt lot that's butted up against this huge field they're going to be hanging out on for the night. And so he pulled...
Somebody said I should make a bracelet with my logo. That's actually a pretty good idea. I'm gonna look into that. But I got some stickers on the way with my face on it, and I got some Hi Karen stickers coming too. Be on the lookout.
Pulls into the lot, backs into a space, and he and Leah get out, and they put a blanket out right next to the car, but on the grass on the hill. And they get their food out and their wine out, and they sit down, and very quickly they start swapping stories, and they're laughing and they're stargazing and they're having some wine, and everything's really great. After about an hour, it's totally dark outside, and Derek is laying on the hill facing back towards his car and towards the road they were on. And he notices to his left, up at the top of the hill, so the same area where the van had come from originally and where it went back to after they spoke that one time. Derek is looking out there and he sees headlights, and it's the van. And now the van is driving down the road, not leisurely like it was before, but they are flying down the hill. And
I'm stopping my car, looking out the window with my gun, pew, 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 shooting them tires out. Pow, pow, pow. I bet he ain't coming after me no more on this dirt road.
Before Derek or Leah have a chance to react to this van barreling down on them, it comes flying into the parking lot and practically hits his car and comes to a stop where it's boxed his car in. So even if he got in his car, he couldn't drive away. And so Derek jumps up, Leah jumps up, and the guy, the caretaker, the nice caretaker he talked to before, he hops out of the driver's seat and he walks around the front of the van. He's got this pipe in his hand and he looks at Derek and he's like, give me...
This man don't look like no nice caretaker. Hey y'all, we got about 1,700 people in here. I'm gonna have to delete what I'm about to do out of this video, cause I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. Mother Nature's calling. I'll be back. I'm back. I'm back. Y'all miss me? Y'all think y'all slick, huh? Y'all think y'all slick. I tell you one thing. I wouldn't go in that bathroom if I was you.
Your keys and your wallet. And again, Derek is this brand new cop. You know, he's 21 years old. He's not about to let this guy push him around. And so he doesn't do anything at first. He doesn't know what he's going to do, but he doesn't do anything at first. He just looks at this guy and he shows him that I'm not just going to fall over because you told me to. But then Derek is given a huge curveball when Leah, his date, stands up and runs over to this guy and stands next to him and turns around and looks at Derek and goes, "Come on, give us your keys and wallet." And Derek's like, "Great, I'm getting set up by my date, who I've spent the past 2 hours with, I had a connection with this girl." And so now Derek is just standing there doing nothing, not to be tough, but because he's in shock. He feels so betrayed by Leah, and he just feels like, how could
Man, F Leah, bro! You feel betrayed by Leah? You wasn't betrayed by Leah. A person can only betray you when you have fully, that's why I was confused. It was they or you, when they have fully gained your trust. That's the only time a person can betray you. She didn't betray you. This was her plan all along. How you don't even know this girl. I bet you don't even know her last name. You probably don't even know her real name. She didn't betray you. I'm sorry, man. Y'all, there's this smell in the air right now that's messing me up. I couldn't think straight for a second. It smells like, I don't even want to say.
It happened. And in that moment, Leah walks to the back.
I need to close that door so that smell won't come in here. The heck is that? It's foul.
Back of the van, and she gets a metal pipe. She comes back around and she goes, "Derek, give us your keys and your wallet. We don't want to have to hurt you." And this is when Derek looks at them both and he goes, "No." And as soon as he said that, the big guy tackles him. He gets thrown to the ground, but Derek could handle himself, and very quickly he was able to get up, and he drew his concealed carry pistol, and he's aiming it at the big guy and then back at Leah, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a cop. Go ahead and put your hands up now." As soon as they saw the gun, they both dropped their pipes and put their hands up. And so as he's holding them both at gunpoint, and he's looking over at Leah like, "Really? You did this to me? Are you kidding me right now?" As he's doing that, he has to get his cell phone out of his pocket, type in 911, and then call dispatch and had to say who he was, what his badge number was, what happened, and where he is. And where he is was difficult to describe. And so as he's trying to explain these directions, and he's saying, yep, go left at the light, and then there's a gas station there, you're gonna go up this field, you're gonna see me, I got these two people at gunpoint. As he's doing that, Leah and the caretaker look at each other, and they just turn around and bolt. They figure, he's distracted, we can at least get behind the van and run into the forest before he's going to catch us. And so instinctively, he takes off running after them, and he chases them for about 30 seconds into the tree line before he starts hearing gunshots. And they weren't his, someone's shooting at him, and he sees the muzzle flash out in the middle of the forest, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." He turns around, runs back to his vehicle, he starts it up, and he has to basically smash into the van, back into the fence over and over again, like Austin Powers, like a 25-point turn, before he was barely able to grind his way out and peel out of this park. And so Derek pulls into the nearest gas station. He calls up dispatch and he says, "Hey, I just called 911 like 5-10 minutes ago, and I dropped the call because I was chasing somebody. Here's my name, here's my badge number. I'm now at this gas station. Can you send a couple of police officers over to my location now?" And they said, "Yep, we'll send some to you." And so a police cruiser shows up with 2 officers inside that Derek recognized. They were senior to him. And they got out, and he explained again what happened, and they kind of gave him a hard time for getting catfished on his very first date, but...
Oh, heck no, bruh. Oh, heck no, bruh. Oh, heck no, bro. You go back to your town, man. You can't trust folks out here, bro. You cannot trust folks out here. Hey, y'all, look, it's a live stream, baby. It's a live stream. Hey, you never know what happens when you live, man. Mother Nature might call. I'm going to have to edit that part of the video out later so that people that's watching it after fact, they'll be like, "Yo, what the heck? How long this man going for?" I said y'all in the chat. They'll be like, "All right, he's probably doing number one. Wait. He's been gone a while, and then anyway, look, I ain't trying to get into all that. No, I was about to call out these chats, but they went away. They disappeared. Only one I see is Antoinette. I think that's how you say his name is Marsha. Marsha, A-OK all day. That's right, big baby. Yeah, them apple pies did a number on me, man. It don't help that I'm drinking this. You know what? Let me stop.
At the same time, they knew it could have gone really badly. And so they decide they're going to load up in the police cruiser together, all three of them, and drive back up to the park. And so they get up to the park, and Derek points ahead, and he goes, "That's the van. It's still here." And so they drive up, and they stop short of the van. And the two uniformed officers, they turn to Derek, and they're like, "Just stay in here. We're going to go check this van out."
That's the other thing that like irritated me, though. The fact that they was like, "Yo, you got catfish on Tinder." No, it was the actual girl. Her intentions were just horrible.
And so Derek's sitting in the car watching these guys go up to the vehicle, guns drawn. They're looking all around. They're clearing behind the vehicle. They're looking in the wood line. There's nobody there. And at some point he sees them put their pistols away, and they go in the van. They're kind of shining with their flashlights all around. They're looking in the back, looking in the front. And then after a few minutes, they walk back to the cruiser. And as soon as they got in, Derek could tell there was just something off about how they were acting.
I was just about to say, so he said that Derek could tell that the officers, there was something off about how they act. I was like, what if these officers are in on it too? Like, what if this whole town is just messed up?
Down at the gas station, they were kind of joking around with him.
Yeah, exactly. That already, it was like a big turn off for me. The fact that those cops were joking with him at first when he was telling them this situation and not taking it serious and be like, "Oh, no, let's look into this." And now he's back out there in this crazy location with these cops that he don't know. Bro, I told you, bro. You don't listen, bro. I told you to go home. As soon as them cops start laughing, take your butt home. Whew. Missing 411 about people that go missing in weird circumstance. You gotta send me a link to that, big baby. I'll check it out.
Now, whatever they had seen in the van was definitely not something they were going to joke about. And they turned to him and they're like, the back of the van, it was just knives and saws and pistols and rifles and lighter fluid and chains and handcuffs and duct tape. It was just awful, and it looks like there might even be blood on the ground.
Yo, they were gonna do some stuff to this boy. Oh, nope, I'm never touching Tinder again. None of that. Any day nap, I'm not doing it. I'll just be single if I can't find somebody in the real world. Not me. Not doing it.
The two officers immediately called in additional backup, and before long, it was a full-fledged circus around this van of a crime scene investigation unit and other police officers, spotlights set up, and they went out looking in the woods for these people, but they never found the guy, they never found the girl, and Derek would tell the other investigators, "Hey, she works at this hair salon, like right down the road. I picked her up there." And so they went over to the hair salon, and they wound up talking to the people there, and they said, "We've never heard of Leah." And when they showed them a picture of Leah, they were like, "We've never seen her before."
What?
And so they came back and they told Derek, "Look, she's a con artist, and this whole thing, your whole relationship with her has been her setting you up in some way, shape, or form."
Exactly.
The entire thing. That's all it ever was.
Exactly.
And so for Derek, that was crushing, and he swore off Tinder immediately. He did not
Told you, bro. Don't touch Tinder.
Not want to do any more online dating. But what really haunts him more than just being taken advantage of is, what would have happened if I wasn't concealed carrying? Would I have wound up in the back of that van?
Exactly. Which is why I'm so glad that he had a gun. I'm so glad this man had a gun. I be thinking that same thing too. I'm like, it's one of those situations, like when it comes to concealed weapons or concealed guns specifically, is like, do I have one or do I not have one? I would rather have one and not need it than to not have one and need it. That's where I'm at with it. That is where I'm at. What up, King Cole? Still here, came through and dropped off 2 donations. He said, "Shout out to my kids." How you say her name? Zoshima. And you know I can't read, man. I don't even like my own name. That's why I don't tell nobody my name. I can't read my own name. I'm playing. Lavisher. Shout out to your kids, though, baby. Don't touch Tinder. I'm telling you, baby. Tell them, Pisces. Don't touch that Tinder, man. That junk is not tender. It's not very tender. He asked for me by name.
In the summer of 2019, a grandmother named Barbara was looking after her grandkids for the weekend while her daughter and her husband were out of town. Her daughter had 3 kids, 2 that were under the age of 6 and 1 who was 15 years old, and her name was Alyssa. And so anytime Barbara was looking after her grandkids for longer than just a single day, like if she was taking care of them overnight, she would just stay at their house so as not to disrupt their lives more than she needed to. And so their house was a modest single-story home in a nice suburb of Dallas, Texas, where the crime rate is basically 0 and everybody in the neighborhood knows each other. And so this particular night that she's over there looking after them was like any other. She put the 2 young ones to bed first, and then she and Alyssa stayed up a little bit later in the kitchen chatting, talking about school, before ultimately both of them went to bed. So because their house is a single-story home, all the bedrooms are on the only floor of the house. And so Barbara and Alyssa's room were right next to each other, looking out to the side of the property. And so as soon as Barbara got in her room, she opened up the window that was right next to her bed, because as a kid, she always slept with the window open. And even though her daughter's house had air conditioning, she preferred to keep the window open. So window's open, she has a screen that's in her window, and Barbara crawls into bed and she falls asleep. At about 3 a.m., Barbara wakes up to the sound of rustling coming from outside of her window. And so she hears it, but it sounds an awful lot like it's probably just a dog or a cat or some other animal that's in the area. It did not seem like a big deal to her, and she was just going to forget about it. But then she heard it again, and it sounded much more like footsteps, and they sounded heavy enough that it probably couldn't be a dog or a cat. And so she rolled over onto her elbows, and she pulled the curtain aside just enough to look out.
I was not expecting to see this old lady. I'm over here thinking he's talking about a young person. Lady scared the mess out of me.
The screen door. And so the moon was out, so there was pretty good illumination, and so she could clearly see the side of the house. She could see the side of the house, she could see the fence that separated their property and their neighbors, and then she could see the neighbor's house and all their lights are off. And she noticed propped up against the fence on their side of the fence, so on their property, was this bike that she didn't recognize. And she's looking at it thinking, is that Alyssa's bike? It's too big to be either of the 6-year-old's bikes. Whose bike is that? And as she's looking at the bike, she hears more rustling coming from the left, which is closer to Alyssa's room. Barbara presses her face up against the screen to try to look out the window towards the left, because whatever's making the sound is now out of her view. And as she's got her face pressed up against the screen trying to look, she sees a boy emerge from the bushes from right underneath Alyssa's room. He's got that high school Letterman jacket, like the classic, football jacket that high school kids wear. He comes out of the bushes wearing that, and he's got his hood pulled up, and he doesn't look over at her. He's just backing up away from Alyssa's room, and he's looking up into Alyssa's room. And so Barbara immediately thinks, okay, this guy is probably one of Alyssa's friends, maybe a boyfriend, I don't know, and Alyssa must have invited him over. Maybe she invited him when she knew her parents were going to be out of town, but before I said I was going to be here to look after them, and that message didn't get passed to him, and so he's here. All these scenarios are going through Barbara's head, but all she knew is she's not going to call the cops on some teenage kid that's coming to say hi to Alyssa. Instead, she's going to confront him, because Barbara was actually a high school teacher and had been for decades, and so she'd had lots of run-ins with badly behaved teenagers, and she was pretty good at standing her ground and being firm and kind of getting teenagers to listen to her. So she figured she would just go out there and be stern with him and he'd get the message. And so she quietly gets off of her bed, she walks out of her room to the front of the house. So he's over here, side of the house. She's going to the front of the house. She flips on the lights as soon as she's outside, and she quickly walks around to the edge of the porch where she can poke her head over and see right down the side of the house where this kid's gonna be. So she pokes her head over and she goes, "Can I help you?" And this kid turns and looks at her for the first time, and immediately Barbara's like, oh, whoa, he is not a teenager. He looks like he's in his 20s, if not 30s. No matter what, he is a lot older than Alyssa. And it caught her so off guard, she didn't really know how to react to it. She was just looking at this guy who looks so much older, but he's got a bike and he's wearing a Letterman jacket. And so Barbara's a little bit confused. And so she's thinking to herself, okay, it's possible that he could just be one of those kids that looks a lot older than he really is. But somewhere in the back of her mind, she's thinking, this doesn't feel right. This feels like a grown man is trying to get into the house. And so as she's thinking about this, she's also registering that this guy, he seems completely unfazed. He's just looking up at her, and he actually starts taking steps towards her to the point where Barbara says, stop where you are. And he does, and he looks up at her and he says, I'm looking for Alyssa, is she home? And so as Barbara is just glaring at this guy, hoping that will be enough to get him to leave, but he's not leaving, it occurs to her that this could be a misunderstanding. And so thinking on her feet, she says to him, who did you say you're looking for? Lisa? Without any hesitation, he goes, no, I'm looking for Alyssa McCarran. She lives here. Barbara went silent for a second because he was right. That was her name, and she certainly was here. But she did not want him coming anywhere near the house until she had a chance to talk to Alyssa and confirm that she had invited him here, or at the very minimum, that she knew who he was.
That makes perfect sense. This woman is smart. I loved how she primed him to make sure that he said who he was supposed to say. He said, who? Who you looking for? Alyssa? Lisa? No, he said her actual name. So now, time to talk to Alyssa to see if she knows who this guy is.
So Barbara says to the guy, I need you to stay right there. It's 3 a.m. I don't know you.
3 a.m? This woman, Spidey senses was tingling. Nah, heck nah.
Give me a minute, I'll be right back. And he appears to get the message. And so Barbara went back inside the house. She shut and locked the door behind her. And then she went into Alyssa's room and she shook her foot to wake her up. And so Alyssa kind of sits up and she's looking around and she's like, what's going on? And Barbara looks at her and she's kind of annoyed with how the night's gone. And at this point, she's kind of blaming Alyssa for probably having invited this strange creep over to their house in the middle of the night. And she says to Alyssa, did you invite a boy here tonight? And Alyssa's like, no, what are you talking about? Barbara narrowed her eyes and she said, well, there's a boy outside that clearly knows you. He asked for you by name and he knows you live here and he's outside right now. Can you please go out there and tell him that coming over unannounced at 3 a.m. is not very polite and he shouldn't do it again? Alyssa's confused and she's looking at her grandmother like, what are you talking about?
What up, Lizzie Pooh? Thank you for the dono.
And so she leans back and she opens the curtain of her window and she looks outside and immediately she pulls her head back in and she says, Grandma, he asked for me by name? And Barbara's like, yeah, he said Alyssa McCarran lives here. And Alyssa's like, we have to call 911. I've never seen him before in my life. Suddenly, everything made sense for Barbara. This was a stranger. This is not a friend. This is probably a grown man, and he was probably trying to break into Alyssa's room. And so as she's having this realization...
Whoa, wait a minute. So the girl tells her grandma, I'm assuming it is, maybe, she's like, I don't know who that guy is. We need to call 911. I've never seen him before in my life. This guy knows her by name. What is his intentions? He asked for this girl specifically. This is insane.
They both hear footsteps out on the front porch. And at this, Barbara goes into full protective grandmother mode and she tells Alyssa, stay in your bed, do not move. And Barbara runs out of her room. She goes into her bedroom and she shuts that window and locks it and then runs to the front of the house to make sure that door was locked because she thought she locked it when she came in, but she wasn't 100% sure. She gets right in front of it and she can see that it's locked. And now she's standing right on the other side of the door, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. And this guy is standing on the porch, but obscured. She can't see him because he's on the other side of the door. And it's silent for a second. And as she's standing there just waiting for something to happen, she hears knocking on the door. And it startled her when she heard it, and she yelled out, there's no Alyssa McCarran here. You have the wrong house. You need to leave or I'm calling the police. And the knocking stops for a second, and he says, I know Alyssa lives here. Tell her to come outside. He goes back to knocking, and Barbara picks up her phone, and she calls 911, and she intentionally talks really loudly into the phone, making it very obvious she is calling the police.
Yes. What's insane, too, is to think about this girl, right? Think about Alyssa. How terrified must she be that some strange man that she doesn't know, never seen before in her life, but knows her by name, wants her to come outside. And for what? Woo!
And very clearly this guy picked up on what Barbara was doing because the knocking stopped and she saw him through the little slit of glass next to the door run to the left of the house, back towards the side where his bike was. And so Barbara, while on the phone, runs into the bedroom where she was sleeping and she looks out the side window, and the last she sees of this guy is riding his bike across the street. And then he stops next to an SUV and he opens a trunk and he throws the bike in the trunk and he gets in the passenger side of the car and they drive off, which means whatever he had planned to do with Alyssa or whatever he was doing this night, he had an accomplice.
Wow.
The police show up a couple minutes later, and at this point, this creep and whoever he was with are long gone, but Barbara still gives her description of the vehicle and description of the night and what happened. And the police told her that over the past couple of weeks, they've gotten very similar reports from other households where there are young girls inside of the house. Apparently, this boy was actually a grown man that would use social media to figure out where kids lived, and then he would dress up like a teenager, and then he would go stalk them. And so whatever Alyssa had listed online, he had been able to deduce that she lived there, and who knows how long he had been looking in the window at her at night.
Y'all, we got 2,100 people in here, almost 22. Shout out to everybody up in here right now. But y'all, take that into account. Talk to your kids about the dangers of sharing your information, personal information, online. Giving your locations. One thing I used to always hate for people to do, especially like with Facebook, you know, the check-ins, where people will, you know, they're with their group of their friends and they would check in at a location. They're like, oh, I'm here with all of my friends, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, don't tell nobody you checking in with me until after we've left this place. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you never know who could be watching. They're like, oh, so-and-so's not home right now. Let me stop by their house and wait for them. Watch it. Be very, very careful with how you use social media. Play.
In 2018,
Influencer. Me, right here, telling you right now. Even me, very careful with social media. And I'm an influencer.
An up-and-coming Instagram influencer named Wendy was contacted by a hotel in Miami, Florida that wanted to see if she'd be willing to stay at their property over Memorial Day weekend. They said they were willing to cover all of her expenses as long as she was willing to post a couple of times while she was at the hotel showing off how great the hotel was. They also told
Oh, she must have been a pretty big influencer too. I'll be in Miami.
her to bring along a female friend, and that friend, they would cover all of her expenses as well. Even though Wendy didn't know if she had any girl friends that would want to do this with her, she was so eager to take them up on this opportunity because she was trying to make being an influencer be her full-time job. And so opportunities like this were huge for her. And so she said yes, even before she knew if she could bring along a friend like they asked her to. And so sure enough, over the next couple of days, as she reached out to her network to see if there's any females that wanted to come with her, everybody was either busy or wasn't that interested or they had plans. And so since she did not want to cancel, she thought, well, it can't be that big of a deal if I bring along a male friend. And so she reached out to her good friend Mitch, who's the 6'4" athletic guy who was just one of her close friends, and she said, hey, would you mind coming along with me to this thing in Miami over Memorial Day weekend? I need someone to go with me. They asked for a female, but you know, you're gonna have to do. And so Mitch agreed to do it, and Wendy thought to herself, well, worst case scenario is they're not willing to pay for Mitch's, expenses, and that she would pay for them, and she told Mitch as much. And so they thought that was just fine. They figured that was a good solution.
Sounds good to me. Oh my God, I feel like this is about to be so real because this story just makes so much sense already off the rip.
So the day arrives and Wendy and Mitch are really excited about this trip. They don't often get to go travel around as influencers. And so they hop on a plane, they fly first class to Miami. When they get there, they go down, they get their bags at a baggage claim, and then they go out to the curb, and right away Wendy sees there's this really well-dressed guy with dark sunglasses on, and he's holding up a sign that has her last name on it and the logo of the hotel on it. And so she waves to him and walks over, and Mitch is following right behind. And this guy looks at her and he says, okay, well, where's your friend? And that's when she says, oh, well, actually, I brought Mitch because none of my girlfriends wanted to go. So I brought Mitch along. And so this guy lowers his sunglasses and he looks at Mitch and he kind of looks up and down. Then he puts his sunglasses back and he turns and he walks towards this beautiful black SUV that's parked right up against the curb. And so Wendy and Mitch follow him, and this guy opens up the back door and Wendy and Mitch get in. The guy takes their luggage and puts it in the back of the vehicle and shuts it. And as soon as Wendy and Mitch sit inside of this car, the driver is visibly upset. He's kind of ranting and raving, and the front passenger window was down. And so Wendy and Mitch assumed he must be yelling at someone outside of the vehicle, like this guy that had just picked them up. He must be communicating with him somehow. He can't possibly be yelling at us. We just got here. We don't know him. But right. Sure enough, as they kind of are tuning into what he's saying, he has a very thick accent, and he's saying, where is the other girl? You're not supposed to have a guy.
This has me thinking this girl did not do a very good job of doing her research in regards to the people who were reaching out to her about this Instagram influencer opportunity. She didn't do a very good job. Like who? Sometimes people will reach out to you and saying they're doing it on the behalf of an organization, an institute, a business. Don't trust it. If it don't look like it's coming from them, look, I have to deal with this stuff literally every single day. Literally. For the past year, there hasn't been a day that hasn't gone by where someone has tried to reach out to me for some type of opportunity. Literally every single day. It's insane. I ignore 99.999% of them.
It's two girls. Not one girl, one guy. It's two girls. Where is the other girl? As Wendy is hearing this, she feels so uncomfortable, not just for herself, but for Mitch too, because she asked him to come along and had said, oh, it won't be a big deal. They won't mind. But I mean, clearly they do mind. And so Wendy's trying to explain to the driver that, I know you asked for a female friend, but I didn't have a female friend. And so I brought him along. I will pay for him. I'm not asking you guys to pay for him. I'll pay for everything that he touches. I'll pay for his hotel, his flight, everything. But the driver didn't seem that upset about who was paying for Mitch. His frustration came from a place of being frustrated, like they weren't going to be able to do whatever they had planned to do.
Exactly.
Because now Mitch is in the
picture.
And so as Wendy and the driver are kind of going back and forth and the driver's getting more and more frustrated, the guy that had originally greeted Wendy and Mitch hopped in the front seat and he and the driver started arguing with each other in Portuguese.
Ooh, Portuguese, huh? Where are they from? They Brazil? They from Brazil or from Argentina? Yo, if I was Mitch and this girl, I would have been like, we're getting out this car right now. We're out of here.
And so for about a minute, Wendy and Mitch are looking at each other like, what is going on here? And these guys are yelling at each other, and then they stop, and the driver turns around again, and one more time he says to Wendy, where is the other girl?
What other
and
girl?
Wendy says, there is no other girl. It is Mitch and I. That is it. At this point, the driver makes a sound like he was disgusted with both of them, and he raises his hand up like this, and he turns to face the road in front of him. And the guy that had originally greeted Wendy and Mitch, he gets out of the passenger seat, goes around to the back, opens the back of the truck, takes their luggage out, throws it onto the curb, goes to the door that is closest to Mitch, opens it up, and he tells them to get out.
Good. It's exactly what they need to do. They need to get the heck up out of there.
And so Wendy and Mitch climb back out onto the curb. The guy shuts the door behind them. He hops back in the front seat, and that car peels away. That was it. At this point, Wendy's thinking to herself, I bet those two guys have nothing to do with the hotel and the people that I had been communicating with to set this whole thing up. I bet they are just the drivers, and they were told to pick up two girls, and we showed up with a girl and a guy, and
I thought she figured it out. Don't sound like it. She said, I bet those two guys had nothing to do with the hotel. I bet they were just the drivers and they were told to pick up two girls. And that's why they're so upset. No, I don't think that's the problem. Little girl, I don't think that's the problem. Look, man, go out there and get a real job. Too many folks trying to become influencers and they only got half a brain. Go out there and get a real job.
Screwed them up and they got mad and they got really mad, I guess, and then they left. And so I bet if I can just get in touch with the people at the hotel, the people I had spoken to, that they can clear this whole thing up. And so she opens up her email and she sends a message to Marissa, who was one of the people at the hotel that she had been going back and forth with when she was buying her plane ticket.
You see that? You see that? They tried to use a female to lure this girl and her potential friend in. They used a female. Interesting.
And then she sent another message to the Instagram account that had over 10,000 followers that she'd been going back and forth with quite a bit, that had actually originally reached out to her. And so for a couple of minutes, Wendy is watching her phone, waiting for a response. And at some point, Mitch says to her, by the time we get a response to either your, Instagram DM or your email, we probably could have just taken an Uber over to the hotel and spoken to them directly. So why don't we just go do that? And so they agree, they hop in an Uber and they drive the short distance to this hotel. And as soon as they get out, Wendy notices something that at the time did not seem like a big deal, which was the logo of the hotel, the one in real life right in front of her, it was a little bit different than the one that is on the Instagram page, the one she'd been talking back and forth with. That was their profile picture. It's different than the one in real life. And so that stood out to her just because she had looked at that page a number of times. But it was definitely the same hotel, and so she didn't think much of it. And she and Mitch walked inside right up to the front desk, and Wendy asked to speak with a manager. And shortly thereafter, a manager comes out, and she asks Wendy and Mitch to come into her office. They go inside, and she says, okay, guys, what's going on? What do you need? And so Wendy explains the framework of the deal she had negotiated with Marissa. And she said, look, when I got to the airport, the guys that picked us up were incredibly rude, and they wouldn't give us a ride here. And I just want to let you know what happened. We don't care. We got a ride here, but we just figured you should know. And the woman looks at her kind of puzzled, and she says, who was the person you talked to? You said Marissa? And Wendy's like, yeah, Marissa. She's the marketing person here. And the manager looks at her, and she says, no, I'm the marketing person, and my name's Kelly. I think you're at the wrong hotel, because we don't have any influencers that are here right now, and I would have known about this. Wendy can't believe it, and she pulls up the Instagram page she's been talking to, and she shows it to the manager. And the manager takes it, and she's pretty surprised by what she's looking at, and she's like, this is our old account. We deleted this, or I thought we deleted this. We have a new one because we rebranded. We have a brand new logo, everything's new, and we just felt like we'd start fresh. So I don't know who owns this account now, but that is our account. It's just, we don't use it anymore. I don't know how anyone got a hold of it. At this point, it clicked for Wendy that this whole thing was a facade, that this whole time she was being conned, and what really scared her is, to what end? What were they trying to do with her? Had she shown up with the other female friend, what would they have done with her? But at this moment, Wendy just feels totally overwhelmed by the entire moment. She's so embarrassed that she thought this was real, and she dragged Mitch along, and this whole thing was just fake. She's so embarrassed that she just approached this manager who basically said, that's all fake.
Like, the fact that this girl is embarrassed, girl, you have no reason to be embarrassed. That is not the emotion that you're supposed to be feeling right now. You're supposed to be feeling the emotion of joy that this thing didn't go down in the way that it was initially intended to, that you was able to alter, or with helps of your friends that wasn't able to come along on this trip with you, help change the course of what could have happened. There should be some joy and maybe a bit of frustration and confusion, but not embarrassment. Y'all are safe. Thank God you're safe. Wow, this is crazy, man. Look, you got to be careful out here. Got to be real careful.
And so she just wanted to leave. And so she stands up and she says, I'm really sorry for wasting your time, to the manager. And she and Mitch leave. She goes outside and she just sits down and she's crying. And Mitch says, hey, you really ought to call the police and let them know this happened, because, clearly there were plans for you, and, had you brought a female friend, and they can't have been good plans. I think you need to let the police know that this scam exists.
Yeah.
And so Wendy does call the police, and she explains what happened, and she's surprised when they say, hey, where are you right now? We'd love to send a detective over to you to talk to you a little bit more about what happened. And so Wendy tells them where they are, and she's a little bit surprised that they want to send a detective over to talk about this, because in her mind, this isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it's a big deal to her and to Mitch, but nothing really happened. Yeah. But either way, they go sit on the bench right outside the hotel, and they wait for the detective to show up. And just a couple of minutes later, he does. He walks up, he introduces himself, and he says, hey, let's go inside and grab a table and we can chat. And so they go inside and they sit down, and Wendy and Mitch go over their story one more time. And after they're done, the detective says, look, I don't mean to scare you, but I do want you to understand just how serious of a situation you guys were just in. So in Miami, human traffickers use these phony hotel Instagram accounts to attract young women like yourself to Miami in order to be trafficked.
Wow.
And so they will buy these old business Instagram accounts from companies that have either rebranded or who are going out of business. They'll pay top dollar to acquire those Instagram accounts. And then they will use them in order to get people like you to come to Miami. And so
so they did a pretty decent of enough job because they're actually purchasing Instagram accounts that were once legit. So it can definitely look as though that this is coming from a legit brand or company. Wow. They go that far for human trafficking that they're willing to sit there and spend top dollar on these Instagram accounts to better disguise what plans they have. Man, these girls could have been in something so serious. Oh my goodness. They would have been in something so serious. Wow. You see, you guys, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the dangers of being an influencer. Some of the things that can happen. You never know. And it makes sense that human trafficking is a big thing in Miami, but it's bigger here in Georgia. It's bigger. This is like the Mecca for it. Brandon came through with another donation. Top dollar. $50. Thank you, sweetheart. But seriously, it's scary to think. And it's crazy because I live in Georgia and I've seen signs of it only once. I've told you guys about that incident one time before, and I may tell you again in a later video, but we got to end this because I got to get up out of here.
Probably the only reason they didn't follow through on their operation is because you brought Mitch along, who posed a threat to them.
Exactly.
And so that's why they were upset with you.
Big old 6 foot tall, big burly man. Yeah, they wasn't ready for that.
And that's why they decided it wasn't worth it.
Nope.
So even though this must have been incredibly traumatic for you, I'm sure you were spared a much worse fate. So that's going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's...
Wow. Man. Woo! Mr. Ballin. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for finding these stories and telling them so good. I mean, I saw everything that came out of this man's mouth. I saw it all playing in my head. I have a very, very vivid imagination. Goodness gracious, this was fantastic. Woo! Anyway, y'all, I have to get up out of here. Let me do a few shout outs and then I am gone. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this evening. We did the live stream a little bit earlier than attended, but nonetheless, I had a great time. Hey, Desiree and Steve, our moderators, are having a baby. Another one, and there's a girl. Steve, don't be sad, brother. Don't be sad. Don't be sad. I want a girl. I want a boy too. Kinda crushing. What you mean you kinda crushing, Tamara? You talking about me? I'm crushing it? Cool, thank you. Oh, wait, you crushing on me? Girl, you better stop. You better stop, girl. Look. Hold on, let me pull this up right quick and then I will be out of here. Y'all is a mess, man. Do y'all only, hey Steve, do y'all only have girls or something? Y'all ain't got no boys? I thought y'all had a boy or two. You're like, no, another girl. Why me? Miss Gray, shout out to you. Thank you for copying something on the website. What's this, Shy? Is SHY? Thank you so much. Hold on, who is this? Alita? Attila? Where you live at? Where you at? Switzerland. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. We got some Swiss up in here, man. Joshua, thank you. Y'all, it's some folks in here names that I cannot pronounce. Oh, we got somebody named Tennessee up in here. What? Look, are you in Tennessee? Nope, you're not, but shout out to you. Thank you so much. Done copped. What you cop? A t-shirt, a Ghost of Real t-shirt, a AOK cap, and a hoodie. That's what I'm talking about. Appreciate you so much. But anyway, y'all, I'm out of here. I thank y'all so much for hanging out with your boy tonight. You like this reaction, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more. As always, the link to the originals will be down in the description box below. If you haven't already, make sure you follow your boy on the gram, man, Twitter, at Artofkickz. Now, I got to see where that part where I was using the bathroom so I can edit that out because I was gone for a little while. Yeah, y'all know. Y'all know. But anyway, see ya.